Well, let's change the tone a little bit. What do we do? What's the battle? What's the struggle? What are we up to? Peter, you want to get us started? Talk to us about All Voting is Local, what you're up to, your issues and campaigns.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, All Voting is Local is a nonpartisan voting rights project, the Leadership Conference Education Fund, and the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. A number of different campaigns. I think the first thing that I want to mention, because it's very specific to what we were just discussing, is education. So, generally speaking, we fight to eliminate needless and discriminatory barriers to the ballot before they happen to help build a better democracy. One of the ways we do that is educational pieces. So, I think it's really important for folks to know here that you can go to bringit.wi.gov and see the list of permissible or acceptable photo IDs for voting. And if you think you don't have an acceptable photo ID, like go to that website first, double check, and then make sure you have one. I think a lot of people are just, the photo ID law is designed to confuse, so we want to make sure that information gets into the hands of folks first to eliminate some of that confusion. But anyway, so then a number of different campaigns working to fight some of these discriminatory barriers. Felony disenfranchisement is one. No person should ever lose the right to vote. Thinking about our eligible voters in jail, many individuals in our Wisconsin County jails haven't lost the right to vote. If you're serving a sentence for misdemeanor, unless it's a misdemeanor for treason or bribery, you're still eligible to vote. Many folks in our jail are just don't have the money to post cash bail. So we need to make sure that there are clear policies and processes in place for individuals in Wisconsin County jails to be able to vote. Some of these student pieces, and working in coalition with so many other great groups to make sure that our election day polling places are properly staffed, that there are ballot return options, that it's as easy as possible to cast an absentee ballot. A lot of different things in the docket. But it's really wonderful to be able to work with so many great organizations like the Campus Vote Project, like Curto, and others in the state around some of these issues.
Thanks, man. We appreciate all that you do. My own interest in legal history and civil rights law, it's as I mentioned to you, it's excited to be in any way connected to your organization and the Leadership Conference of Civil Rights. So thank you so very much. Nate provided some important commentary in our chat. Seniors and disabled have unique barriers as well. And so before we wrap up, if either of you want to address that topic, please do. In the meantime, Kristen, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Campus Vote Project?
Sure. As I said, the Campus Vote Project is a program of the Fair Election Center. The reason that's important is because all of the voting guides that we share and the resources we share are vetted by our attorneys. So if you go to our website, there's a map of the country. If you click on any state, because of course we have students at campuses in Wisconsin who are from other states and may choose to vote either at home because they're still at home because of COVID, or they want to vote absentee from their home address. Any of those states you can click and there's a guide to what the student voting laws are in that state. So that's really handy to have. And we also are really on top of these things. So if something changes again with something to do with our voting laws, we're going to get that information out to you immediately. The Campus Vote Project works to institutionalize voting and democracy work within a campus. And we'll work with technical colleges, four-year colleges, community colleges, doesn't matter. The point of it is we want the work that we do to survive beyond any particular faculty, staff member, or student group. So it has to be something that the entire campus agrees to take on as an all the time project. We provide paid fellows to help with that work every semester. And we're not just there for voting years. So while obviously voting in the election in November is going to be a big part of what we do this year, we will be there next year taking on a different issue related to democracy. And maybe it's going to be keeping your elected officials accountable. We just had a bunch of elections. How do you keep that democracy going? By reaching out to your elected officials and making sure they know that you are watching them, that you're going to hold them accountable to what they said they were going to do for you, and that you'll vote them out if they don't. We have too many cases in this country of people getting elected and then just staying in those same jobs over and over and over again, all the while ignoring the will of the people. So continuing that democracy work is a big part of what we do too. And I do want to say that again, Campus Vote Project, the All In Challenge, Andrew Goodman, All Voting is Local. There's a whole coalition of us. We all work together and we all have different little pieces of the pie. So there's a lot of organizations working with campuses in Wisconsin right now to make sure they have the resources and the information they need to help students vote. So if you know of any campus that really needs some help, email me. My information is in the chat. Google us. You can check in with some of the other organizations too, but we are here to help, and everything we provide to you is free.
And I appreciate that. Thank you so very much, Kristen. I had a chance to pop into some of the coalition meetings, and it is it's a really rich group of folks. Like this is the right people in conversation with one another. It really is impressive, and I'm just very thankful for what you do. Bree, talk to us a little bit about the Andrew Goodman Foundation, and I know we're in the early phases of that relationship with them, but as best as you can, tell us what's going on with that AGF effort.
Oh, Andrew Goodman, I'm pretty sure everyone on the panel knows who he is, but he was a freedom fighter who went down to Mississippi to go register voters with two other people. Let me make sure I get their names correctly. I don't want to.
All right, James Chaney and Mickey Schwerner.
And I can pronounce the last name, Mickey Schwerner. They went down and they were murdered by the KKK, and I think it was their first day they went out to register, and that kind of sparked national, publicity, and it also ended up helping with the Civil Rights Act getting passed, voting rights. So, what the Andrew Goodman Foundation Vote Everywhere program is like a national nonpartisan organization that is on campus, and it's still following Andrew Goodman's, dream to empower young voters and empower young people to help others feel empowered in their vote. So what we're doing right now is just campaigning and making sure to get the word out and educating others. We're still like in the start, as Dr. Smith said, of our program on campus, but we're real new. It's me and Jay, and Ben helps a lot with that. So shout out to Ben and Jay. But right now we're still working on getting things done, but registering voters is our main priority right now, and just helping out wherever we can when it comes to, voter advocacy.
Yeah, we're looking forward to being engaged with the Andrew Goodman Foundation. The great thing was, because of our role engaging with the Andrew Goodman Foundation, we ended up pivoting back to Peter and Kristen somehow. So somehow we were all dumped into some similar conversations. So this is great when our efforts begin to align in the way that they have. Let's start to think about some Q&A. Do you all have any other thoughts you want to add about the work you're doing, and then offer any of those comments, and then we'll start to head into some Q&A with our folks. And what we typically do with Q&A, because of the number of attendees is functional, we just promote them to panelists, and then we chat for a little bit in case they have some comments. But go ahead, Kristen, you have something to share?
Yeah, I have one thing that I wanted to bring up, and that is that we rarely speak of, and that is probably the most consequential thing for college students of voting rights was the 26th Amendment to the Constitution that lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. And I think this is especially powerful with all the protests and all the rallies that students are participating in right now. This happened in 1971 when young people were being sent off to the Vietnam War and didn't even have the right to vote. It's kind of shocking to remember that until 1971, that's not that long ago, you could be 18 years old, you could be married, you could be at war, you could own a home, you could own a business, you could, have all of these responsibilities and did not have the right to vote. And then of course the 19th Amendment giving the right to vote to women. Without those two amendments, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
It's been a much longer history in this nation that the fewer and fewer folks have been able to vote compared to where we are today. This is in a lot of ways far newer terrain than we ever realized. So thank you for emphasizing that, Kristen. That's really important. All right, we're gonna go to Q&A now. We're gonna start promoting some of our folks who are with us to panelists. And so as you join us, feel free to join our conversation in any ways you might like. And go ahead, Adam.
I have a lot of questions, but one of them is just with kind of the organizational dynamic of organizing on campuses and with youth, which is inherently through time a transient population. Like, do you know, like not only do students spend 2 or 4 years or whatever it is at a campus and progress, it's constantly sort of refilling itself. And as a 35-year-old who doesn't feel young anymore, I know I have a different cultural place and where my voice is effective in reaching youth. So can you guys talk a little bit about that dynamic of how you keep that drumbeat going and not just having to restart at every election? How do you create some durable structures in campus spaces where it's not just saying, well, it's a brand new group of students, it's time to strike up the band again?
I'll start with that because Campus Vote, I mean, obviously that's what we do. And your point is exactly why we exist. Mm-hmm. Because too often, and I still have some campuses I'm working with now that are stuck in this rut, that the student government organization is charged with working with students about registering to vote and then actually voting. But again, you could have some real great people one year and then those people, graduate, and it's just, that is just exactly why we exist, to avoid that. We work with the administrations. Usually it's a civic engagement director or a student life director, sometimes residence halls, that person becomes our point of contact, and they have to get approval from their higher ups. So this has, approval all the way up to the president of the college. And we are there bugging whoever is in that position. So even if Joe Schmo moves on from that role, I'm still there going, okay, Jane Doe, now you're the leader of civic engagement on this campus. I'm going to be giving you 2 democracy fellows. Let's figure out who they're going to be. We're going to pay them to do this work 10 to 15 hours a week, all semester long. So, it's not on you, it's on the fellows. We're giving them all the training. We're making sure they're on top of what's going on. We're making sure they know digital organizing. During COVID time, everything's going to be digital. So we are kind of that layer that makes sure it keeps going once a campus agrees to join us and become a voter-friendly campus. And that's because you're right. That's what exactly could happen is there's one staff member, and maybe it's someone whose job has nothing to do with voting, but they're just passionate about it personally, and they do it for maybe 10, 20 more years. And all of a sudden they retire and nobody picks up the ball. So we're there to hand the ball to someone else. Make sure somebody's always got the ball.
I mean, yeah, it is almost like a football program. Sorry to be a jock for a second. Yeah. Where you have a coaching staff and a system. Yeah. Sorry. I feel like that might not be relatable.
It's funny that you bring that up because one of my non-Wisconsin groups that I'm working with are the Syracuse University athletics department decided they were going to do their own voting rights program, even though the school isn't doing one. So and they did a fantastic job. So yeah,
nice.
There is, and they've brought athletics into a lot of what they're doing, so it can be done.
Bree, did you want to add anything about that? Because I think at the core of the question, I was, talking about what are the structures of it. But as you sort of pointed out, there's sort of a, how does it live within a campus culture, right? Like how can students be effective advocates to others, or who can be effective advocates to other students and compelling them to vote?
Really, I think it just comes down to people who are very vocal on campus already. And once they get to talking to people, then they become more empowered in it. So you just kind of ask questions about like, hey, how do you feel about voting? Are you interested in voting? How do you feel about politics, things like that. And once you kind of get their ear, then everyone just kind of falls into it as well. So it's not really like a one person thing. I think it's more of a group oriented thing as well, just kind of helping other people find their voice while you're just kind of
Sure.
just asking questions, things like that. It's like back to sports, kind of like a point guard, just throwing the ball and passing the ball to them and, making sure they get their shots off and stuff like that.
Sure.
So that's really what it is. But in my experience, I really just feel like it depends on also just the climate of politics in general. So if it's good or if it's something that's going to make people want to go out and vote, or if it's something that's going to make people say, oh, we need to get some change going, it's going to be much easier to get people involved. Whereas if it's something kind of like a local election, unless it was, like a popular one we just had. But besides that, it's kind of like no, people don't really not into it as much. But if it is, then if the political climate allows for everyone to be like super involved, it's much easier to just get people to say like, hey, come vote,
Sure.
Nate's got a question. Nate, you're a panelist. You can unmute and pose that, but his question is about voter-friendly campus designations. Do we have names of those? Can we find those somewhere?
We can definitely find those someplace. There's so many of them. I'm not sure all of them are listed individually on our website. The requirements are that you, whoever Nate is, if somebody can get me his info, I'll send it. You just need to sign a statement of interest. Click through our website to the Voter Friendly Campus website, sign a statement of interest, ignore all the deadlines that are there. And then I will pop in now that you've showed your interest and help you create a plan. And then you work that plan and become a voter friendly campus. So the whole thing is done with our support along the way. And wherever you're from, we'd love to have you.
Cool.
Can I offer another thought? Just real. I still remember I was in college in 2004, and I remember sitting in the dining hall after the election returns were starting to turn in, or maybe the next day, and young people like my friends who hadn't really thought about voting a ton before, having voted for the first time and feeling really a crushing defeat, having voted for John Kerry, and feel like. And I think to me, if you place, and this isn't to at all undermine any of the work you guys are describing, but if you place so much weight in the terminal act of voting, as opposed to it being part of a larger civic diet that you have of involvement, it can become this kind of like binary, I won or I lost, and maybe like deflate someone if they don't win, or not, feel that sense of disillusionment. Like, well, what was the point if the president's saying don't boo, vote, and then I voted and it didn't matter, or it didn't affect anything? And we have to end now, so that was more. That's probably a really big thing. Yeah.
And I would just say
biography of it too. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, don't boo, vote, and fight for voting rights. There's reach out to any one of us, and we'll plug you into a way to get in this fight that interests you. So there's lots that can be done, not only to cast your ballot, but to make sure that others can do so as well.
Well, and I would also add, stay committed to democracy and not necessarily committed to politicians or political figures.
Good point.
That's another, and Kristen, you highlighted some of this earlier, but we can't emphasize enough the way that voting is very much almost popularity or familiarity or any number of those terms. And we just can't invest too much in political figures. We have to be far more committed to a process that gets us the outcomes that we want as a society. August 13th, we got a table talk. What we do each month is we gather the educators who've been listening in with us and joining us, and we spend a little bit of time talking about the themes and the topics and how to move that into the classroom. So if anybody wants to join us on August 13th, is that tomorrow? That might be tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Please send an email to us somewhere or another. Keisha, you probably should be doing this instead of me. But we'll be in touch about how, there we go. If anyone wants to join us, email Keisha Price and she'll make sure to get you the link. It's just an informal opportunity to talk about strategies for the classroom because, you know, we can find the importance of civics in all of our classes. So Peter, Bree, Kristen, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
This was very, very informative. Our young people are so critical, as we know, not only in this moment of movement, but more broad.